backup my PostgreSQL databases. There are different ways for achieving the same goal, okay? You can use custom script that you write for yourself. You can use WAL-G. You can use pgback rest. You can use pgpro backup or Barman or whatever. There are a lot of products that have the same goal, that's making you back up your database. Every product have its pros, its cons, obviously, and then we are going to focus which one you should use. Obviously, I'm going to suggest Barman because I'm a Barman developer, okay? So identify your needs is important to find the right tool for you. So as I said, I'm going to present you Barman, but I'm not going to say that we have to use that if it's not right for you, okay? I'm Giulio, and this talk is Barman in action, okay? So I'm going to show you practically how Barman works, okay? About me, for the people that didn't follow me during my morning talk, I'm an open source passionate member of the Italian and European PostgreSQL community, Lean and DevOps practitioner, open source developer, part of the Barman team. I work in second quadrant as Barman developer and continuous delivery architect and 24/7 support engineer. The objectives of this talk, but of disaster recovery, generically speaking, okay, are, first one, recovery point objective. What is a recovery point objective? How much data can you afford to use? This is a concept that I explained today during my talk in the morning, but I'm going to repeat that. Basically, it's the time, how much data you can lose, okay, between the data that is produced and it's put in safety, okay, from Barman or whatever tool you use. Then we have the recovery time objective, that how long it takes for you to recover. Because when you have a disaster, it's not only important to save your data, that is probably one of the most important points, but also how long it takes for you to be fully functional again, okay? This talk is more on the part, obviously, of disaster recovery part, so we're going to focus on the RPO, okay? But we're going to use an incremental approach, okay? So we start, when you have to design a system, disaster recovery system, you have to keep your goals in mind, so where you want to go. Then start for and focus for the disaster recovery, so something smaller, and then you can extend your goals, going to touch stuff like for IHA, okay, so availability of your system, and things like that. From that, you evolve, okay? For this talk, I'm going using Barman and giving the first week for building your business continuity infrastructure. In this talk, I'm going to use a playground that is publicly available on GitHub, okay? So you can go and reuse the same playground. The playground is going to produce needs 4 machines using a Wagon file. And the machines are provisioned using Ansible. And so in the end, we're going to have PostgreSQL and Barman installed on all the server, okay? It's publicly available under GNU GPL free, and during the talk, we're going to explore it, not after. So let's start. The step 1 is creating the cluster, okay? I use the Beatles images because the servers that the cluster, the Wagon file going to create, are John, Paul, George, and Ringo, because it's fun, okay? So we have 4 CentOS pre-configured virtual machine. We have John, that is a PostgreSQL 11 server. with Barman CLI installed and with this IP number. Then we have Paul, basically it's the same, okay? Then we have George, there is a Barman server, and we have Ringo, that is another Barman server. Why we have two Barman servers, we're going to discover later, okay? So this is a spoiler. What do you have to expect from this background? Basically, basic Postgres configuration, PG data directory initialized with data checksum, archive mode enabled, syslog for the logs, access on PGHBA, and empty database for PGBench, okay? Paul and John have already running PostgreSQL instance, okay? And SSH, KE are already exchanged. So everything is ready for starting, okay? We are skipping the boring part. Sorry. So, let me move my shell. Okay, hopefully it's visible. Okay. Better? Can you read? Okay, perfect. Okay, I have to admit that I cheated at this point because I already executed the Vagrant tab command and I already executed the Ansible playbook because I was not totally sure that the network was ready to support, you know, downloading Postgres, installing Postgres, downloading the repositories and everything. Just decided to play it safe. So it's already running. The cluster is already up, okay? But basically, everything you have to do is running two commands. That is Vagrant tab. Then you will see Vagrant reading the Vagrant file, and that is already inside the repository that you can download. So you can see there is already the Vagrant file that is here. And then firing the Ansible playbook using PG Playground as playbook or as argument, okay? So, okay, sorry, I cheated, but, you know, maybe it's better like this. Okay, so, I lose my pointer, okay. Already did that, okay. Step 2, we have to verify that everything is running at the moment. So I executed the playbook, but everything is in place, hopefully, yes. So what we have to expect is exactly this, that we have at least one server, that is Paul, that is, let's call it the PostgreSQL master at the moment, okay, that have Postgres running. So verify the PostgreSQL is up and running, check PostgreSQL configuration, generate some data using PGBench. This is the first step. Let's start simple, okay? Okay, so it's difficult, okay. Paul. Okay, now we are inside the full server, okay? So we are the Vagrant user, so we want to be root at the moment. So we are root, okay? And we want to check the PostgreSQL status. Probably it's better for me, I have a document with all the commands, obviously, so I'm going to copy and paste because it's faster than continuously turning between my screen and okay, so we're going to check the status. So Postgres is running, okay. Everything is okay. is working. Perfect. So at this point, we want to be the Postgres user. So I'm going to become Postgres, okay? And we want to check the PG data directory. We can use a shortcut of using the PG data environment variable, so we can easily access the directory. So yeah, this looks at least like a same data directory. So everything is in place for what is the data there. Let's connect to Postgres. OK, I'm connected. Let me clean the screen. OK, I'm inside Postgres. OK, so let's see the status of the cluster. There is a table, a view inside Postgres that is PG settings. OK, that basically have all these fields and shows you all the configuration parameters that are actually running on Postgres. Okay, so just like an example, we want to see all the parameters from this table, from this view. Okay, from the file that contains the parameters, the name and the value that from PG settings. Okay. So we have a lot of parameters that is just to show you. Okay, so it's not relevant, the values at the moment. Okay. This is just a show of configuration, and Postgres is working correctly. Okay, I loaded the parameters. Okay. Then we have the list of the database that are installed at the moment and running on Postgres. And we can quit the connection to Postgres. Then we want to check how is configured PG HBA. We know that all the servers are on the 192 class of IPs. So we can see that we have a replication connection, a normal connection, okay, ready to be accepted. Okay, so it's okay for us for this experiment. Okay, then we are going to run pgbench. You know what pgbench is? No? A little bit. Okay, let's do this. Run benchmark and test on Postgres, okay? But most importantly, generate data. So if you want to create something that, generate traffic, creating walls, random data, this could be used to, okay? So a lot of parameters. It is just a general, view of what pgbench is. There is an option that -i for initialize the database if you don't have anything initialized. There are various options that allow you to decide how long it's going to run, for how many seconds, different kind of transaction that pgbench is going to create. So it's useful even for generating data for this example. And we are going to run pgbench for, let's say, 10 seconds. Hopefully, it's going to generate a bit of... OK. So generated a bit of traffic, created tables, generated walls, that we're going to check later that have been generated. So database seems to be in a good state, in a good shape, is working. Okay, good. Okay, so I think that we have said basically everything for checking that the cluster is working. Okay. So let's return here for a bit. Step 3, prepare PostgreSQL. We want to prepare PostgreSQL for interacting with Barman. Okay. So we are going to create a Barman superuser on the server for the Barman connection. And we're going to create a streaming Barman user that will be responsible for streaming connection for the worlds. Okay? This is the next step, but okay. If you have questions, you can ask. So I think, by the way, it's until now it's pretty much easy to follow me. Okay. So maybe if I try to clean the screen here, it's better. Okay. Then it's now time to create the two users. Okay. So we are gonna generate two passwords. Okay, using PVGen, two ugly and long passwords, okay, that I'm going to save. I save on a document because I don't want to pass my time to writing random numbers. Okay, perfect. And then we are going to create a super user that is Barman, okay? So we are Postgres, so we can use this command, I create user with password -s means a super user, and it's called Barman, okay? So he wants to know the password for the role. We are going to use the first one that we generated, okay? Okay, obviously, is not sure the password, okay? Pasting it again, fine. Now we have a super user that is called Barman, okay? It's pretty easy to creating users for these kind of things. Okay, the next step is creating a streaming user. So, similarly to what we have done for the Barman user, we're going to create, using create user, okay, is with the password a function replication, so it's a streaming connection, okay, it's limited. The type of command that you can fire using a streaming user are limited with respect for a super user like the Barman one, okay. And like before, we're going to use the other password that we generated, okay? Okay, so now we have created two users. Let's connect to Postgres, okay? And let's see. Okay, we can see that we have created, before now there was only the Postgres user, now we have the Barman user that is super user, and a streaming Barman that is a replication user. Okay, so everything we have done have worked as expected. Okay, we can leave Postgres. Now, it's the moment for the fun part. Okay, so we want to create a file that is called .pgpass, okay, that basically provide authentication for the users okay, when they try to connect to Postgres, so you don't have to type the password every time, okay? If we want to create that on the Barman server, okay? So, first thing that we have to check is the fact that we have all the servers of the cluster correctly configured inside the etc host. Okay, this is a trick for handling correctly all the servers, and you can see we have Paul, John, George, Ringo, everything configured. So we can easily jump from Paul to George as a Barman server, okay? And without, disconnecting from Paul and Vagrant SSH to George. We can do both, but we want to check the connection, so we can do that. So, yeah, we are there. Okay, so let's see that if a pgpass file already exists. Okay. And there is already created, obviously, but it's empty. So, pgpass file that already owned by Barman. Can you read it, or what you want me to? Oh, perfect. Better? Because I see you. Sorry. Okay. So, no pgpass. Okay, so we're going to edit the pgpass file. It's empty. There is only an example of how the pgpass line have to be written. So we want to connect to Paul, okay? So we go to a new line, okay, and we had Paul, okay, then 2 points, the port, that's 5432, then Barman, okay, and then we're going to add the password that we created for the Barman user. Okay, let me see if with the quality we have this name. We have this name, the port, all the databases, the username, and the password. So we used, the wildcard because we don't want to restrict access for the database. We want access to all the databases. So the second line is going to be really similar because we want to enable the Barman streaming on the same server. So we can duplicate partially the line. Okay, so this is streaming Barman, so not here, but here. Okay. Underscore Barman. Obviously, we're gonna delete this line and going to using the other password that we used before. No. Okay. Okay. Seems like it's correct. Okay. We can exit VI. Questions so far, or everything makes sense and is clear? Okay, perfect. So we want to test the connection. First one, we want to test the Barman connection. So we're going to use PSQL. Obviously, it's going to use the Barman user because it's not a streaming command. Okay, so sec version. You just want to know a simple command. Okay, on the host pool, database Postgres. It's working. So we know that poll is running Postgres 11.3. Okay, good. Now we want to test the streaming Barman. Okay. Oh, okay. It takes the end of line. But it worked. Okay. But we asked using one of the commands that are explicitly for the streaming connections, okay, using the streaming Barman to identify the system. It is replied with the system ID and its log position and everything. But what we care is the fact that he replied. So the connection is working, okay? It, the server, not Paul. Okay. So Barman is at the moment, not Barman, Postgres is at the moment ready to interact with Barman. We are going to move toward creating our first backup. That is the first goal of this demonstration. So the goal is setting up Barman, understand the basic Barman concept, configuring Barman for backing up poll, configuring Barman for using the streaming archive, and finally, executing the first backup. Okay? The architecture is going to be this one. We have Barman is going to executing backups, that is the yellow line, using a sync, and receiving the streaming from the streaming connection. Personally, okay, I think that this setup is one of the most robust that Barman can use. Probably you can also add, if you want, the archive command to receive WAL files through streaming and through archive, if you want redundancy, okay? But you are taking the best of both worlds, because using a sync on Barman gives you a lot of option that using the streaming connection for taking the backups, because you can use the streaming connection to executing backups, doesn't give you. For example, the fact that you can use parallel workers for copying through a sync the backups. That, in case of really huge backups, is useful, and also for the same reason, using a sync connection, you can use incremental backups. Okay, we're going to talk about incremental backups later. Okay, but so this is probably the kind of setup that I'm going to suggest to everyone. Okay. Let's do that. Let's configure everything. Okay. We were to George that, not much incidentally, is the Barman server. So we want to be root at the moment. We already. Okay. I messed that a bit, sorry. Let's do like this. Okay, so we are George at the moment. We are root. Okay. Let's look how Barman is installed on the system. Basically, is the standard setup that you have after installing it using the packages. Okay. So first thing you want to look is which packages are installed. Okay, so you can see here that we have two packages installed. We have Python Barman and Barman. Okay, why this? With the 2.8 version, we decided to create a Python Barman package that is basically the library that holds all the function for Barman, and creating two packages that uses the library, obviously, For Barman, that is the normal interface that so far were, the system for using backups. And we integrated inside this the Barman CLA package that provides you a lot of useful scripts that we're going to see after, that we're going to see later, for executing operation like, for example, providing wall files to a standby, for example. Okay, so we have split the packages. We have 3 packages. On the Barman server, we need only Barman and the library. Okay, so Barman CLA is not required. Okay, and we know already because we see on the name of the package, but just to be sure, Barman 0.8. This not only says the version, but also the fact that Barman is working, is correctly installed, okay? So it's in the path, everything okay. Let's give a quick view to the manual, okay? Just because I don't know if you are aware of how Barman works. So basically, you have Barman, options, and the command you want to execute. Pretty simple. We have some general options like, quiet, help, or you can specify configuration file. If you want, you can use also a colorized output. Is one of the latest addition that we added because we like colors. Then we have the Barman commands that are archive wall, basically is used internally, but you can fire it manually for forcing the archiving for a server. We have the backup command, that different option. This is just a show reel of the different commands. Okay, so let's move over. We have the backup with these options. We have you can check a backup and ensure that all the walls are present, and this command too is used internally by Barman. Okay, because Barman uses a cron to execute every minute a Barman cron command. So the Barman cron uses the check backup internally, files a sub-process that checks the health of your backups, okay? Then we have Barman check, that generic check for the status of the Barman installation, and of a server, sorry. And we have also the -nudges option that basically convert the normal output that we're going to see later in a version that is compatible with nudges or Ichinga or whatever spin-off of nudges. So you can build a plugin for nudges for checking the status of Barman. Okay. We have the Barman cron command that I was talking before. Then you can delete a backup. Diagnos that basically if you write on the mailing list or you are part of the 24/7 for second quadrant support, and you have a problem with Barman, the engineer are going to ask you as the first thing to provide the diagnos, because the diagnos takes all the backups, all the servers, all the configuration, and put them in a JSON output, so you can, redirect to a file and give it to us. So we have a screening of the status of your server at the moment. Right? Really useful for the developers and engineers. Then we have the get wall option that retrieves files from the archive and is used to recover the wall file from a standby server, okay, to feed it faster. This backup shows all the backups for a given server. These files, all the files are part of a specific backup of a server. This server, that is self-explaining, shows the servers, and, there are a lot of options. I can talk about them for the whole day probably, so I'm going to moving over. There is also man 5 Barman that shows all the configuration options and the syntax of the configuration file. Now we're going to see where the configuration file is and how to handle that. Generally speaking, if you want to know what our option does, you have to go there. it's easier. Or you can go to docs.pgbarman.org. You will see the HTML version of the two manuals and a complete manual of how to configure Barman and stuff. Okay, so this was the util moment. So let's move on looking at how Barman is configured at the moment. So we do this cat slash etc slash cron .d, and there is Barman, you see? Why this? As I said before, we have one cron that executed the command barman cron quietly every minute. So we have Barman that is ticking in the background, okay? And now let's see the login configuration. This is how the package installed Barman on your system, okay? This is basically log rotate configuration, okay? And we have a Barman log. That is here, is ready to receive the log lines. Let's see if Barman is empty. As said, we have a command that lists all the servers that are configured. At the moment, there is no one. Okay, so it's a virgin installation. Let's go cd etc. Okay, and let's look at the barman.conf file. Okay, this is the global Barman configuration file. Okay, we can see that by default there are a lot of options, basically everyone. All the options like, you know, which is the standard Barman user, by default is Barman, and we're going to use Barman. Where is the Barman home? This is something that by default is validly Barman, you can change it, okay? And these are all the default configuration parameters. We want to change a bit them, okay, just for starting. So for example, we want to enable the gzip compression because, you know, we want the whole files to be compressed, okay? And then okay, we're going to move this one to immediate checkpoint true. This basically will start the backup without Postgres finishing to executing the checkpoint. It will arrive later. Okay, so just to be faster, it's just an option to starting the backup faster. Okay, there is no risk in using it. And I think that we, at the moment, for the moment, we are okay, so we can save and exit. Okay. We are in Barman D. Okay. Let's look at what inside this directory. Okay, unless it's better. So we have 3 templates that are already provided by Barman. Okay. For a passive server that we will see it later, an SSH connection server for the backups, or a streaming connection server, always for the backups. We want to starting using an SSH server. So basically, we can change. We can copy. Copy and paste error. Okay. So we can copy the SSH server conf template to poll conf, and we add the disabled in the end, because we don't want Barman to be aware yet of the fact that we have a new server, because we want to change the configuration, okay? So, what command not found? Oh, okay. I messed up a bit with a copy and paste. Okay, so we want to poll, to edit the poll configuration file, okay? So, as the general configuration file, this is a template. We can delete this line, not necessary. So, okay, we want to change SSH to poll. This is the identify section of, this is an ini file, okay? So we want to call it poll, and we want a description. Okay, is foul. Okay, and then we want to change the SSH command, SSH Postgres, obviously, but not to PG, but to poll. Okay. And then we're going to change the connection info. We have tested that the connection is working. So we want to change the con info to not PG, but poll. User Barman, and DB name Postgres. It's fine, pretty generic. Then backup method is sync, because we copied, obviously, their sync file. And we want concurrent backup. Okay, but before this, we want to, no, not yet, we're going to add it later. We want to, not exclusive, but concurrent backup. Basically, a concurrent backup is a kind of backup that could be taken also from a standby, okay? But it's not important right now. Then we have the streaming archiver on. We have the archiver on, okay? And we want to enable also, okay, it's not here, so okay, and we can delete this. So I just enabled the Barman to receive the wall files to a streaming connection. And the streaming archiver, not okay, but like this. Streaming archiver batch size, not 50, but 10, for example. No. Okay. What the streaming archiver batch size mean? It means that Barman, when executing the cron and archiving the wall files, will execute them, the archiving operation in batch of 10 files. Why this? Because in situation where, for example, you are executing a lot of vacuum on your system, you're going to produce thousands of files, or wall files. It's pretty normal. And you don't want Barman to start and analyzing all of them at the same time, because there are obviously locks that stop executing concurrent operation. That could be an issue. So you don't want Barman to archive continuously sometimes when you know that you have high traffic. So I reduced the batch, the wall file that it's going to archive at the same time. And just because we are going to using the streaming connection, we want to use a slot name that is a replication slot, the replication slot used by Barman, that is Barman without any fantasy. And you can specify also a path prefix that allow to be sure that Barman is able to find, wait, sorry. Okay. That is able to find the executables, okay? This is added in front of all the commands that are fired, okay? So we have Barman, general Barman configured. Okay, this is a general configuration. No, sorry, this is the poll configuration for Barman, okay? We can save at exit. We can move poll disabled to poll not disabled anymore, but conf, okay? So now Barman is aware of the fact that poll exists. And we can check easily that using Barman list so it's working. Okay, perfect. Another thing that we want to do is this. The Barman check. As you see, as promised, the output is colorized. Okay. Barman is checking that everything is working as expected. And obviously, at the moment, it's not working as expected because wall archive is yet not working, but we're going to solve it in a moment. Okay. There are no replication slots set up. Okay. And the receive wall is not running because the replication slots are not set up. So what is obvious at this moment is we have to set up the streaming connection to starting the PG receive wall. Okay.
Does it set the exit status if everything is failed? Can you use this for monitoring?
No, the Barman check, yes, there is an out. Oh, I'm going to show you. You can use that to check. And if you use as monitoring a product like Nagios, okay, you can add this flag that basically is going to create an output that is compatible with your Nagios system, okay? So, something is not working. It is obvious, okay? Perfect. So, thank you for the question. We want to create the replication slot. We have this practical command, okay, that is Barman receive wall, and I want to create a replication slot that I specified inside the configuration, so it's going to create a replication slot that is called Barman, okay, on the server poll. So this is something you can do manually, okay, because you can log inside the server and create a replication slot, but Barman is going to do it for you. Okay, so creating physical replication slot Barman on server poll, replication slot Barman created. Good. Let's see if we are archiving stuff. We're going to quick tail the Barman lot, tac, creating, starting, receiving wall. The cron has been executed in the meantime, so the receive wall process is started, and obviously at the moment we are not receiving nothing because we're not generating nothing, okay? Activating wall archiving through streaming protocol, and we are starting to receiving the streaming connection. So it's working. Okay. Let's execute the Barman check again. We have you see we have less errors at the moment, okay? But we have still a wall archive because we are not generating walls at the moment, okay?